What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy John'll back up, and ow! It's a Wednesday. Wow! That means it's time for a one-off. Yeah, I didn't have any intro ideas this week. It's fine. It's whatever. If you want creative intros, go somewhere else. This is a creative writing channel. Got him. That was terrible. Anyway, yeah, I guess we'll just. I Hate Magic by Jonathan Howe. Read to you by Jonathan Howe. You know something? Tasha complained. I really hate magic. Here we go again, Bertram thought, continuing to eat his bagel. I spend months trying to perfect a medicine to help cure cancer. Then Jeremy just shows up and waves his hands around, and the entire idea of cancer disappears from existence. Is that a bad thing? Bertram posited. No, Tasha yelled, but why didn't he do it sooner? If Jeremy was able to magic away cancer this whole time, why didn't he do it years ago and save me the trouble of wasting my time? Bertram shrugged. She had a point. Besides, Tasha continued, not only does it make my work meaningless, but it makes the death of those who died before Jeremy did anything extra pointless. I get it, Bertram told her. Then why don't you care as much? Bertram waited a moment, letting Tasha cool off before making her mad again. He knew the drill, as the conversation like this had happened at least once a week with her. I don't care because no matter how it happened, cancer is gone now. Tasha sighed. She also knew the drill. This was Bertram's way of signaling that he was done with the conversation. Let's just go to work, she said, clearly defeated. Bertram watched Tasha leave, torn on his emotions. On the one hand, she cared so much about how things came about, she let it overshadow that they happened at all. On the other hand, Jeremy was kind of a prick about it. Bertram knew for a fact that Jeremy didn't care at all about curing cancer until the day before Tasha's breakthrough. Bertram finished the last bite of his bagel and stood, clearing off his spot. Some of Jeremy's magic would be nice to help clean up, he thought, glancing around the dirty dining area. Bertram threw away his mess and followed Tasha to the meeting room. Bertram, Tasha, and Jeremy were all members of the Hero Team Protection Patrol, watching over one of the largest urban areas on the planet Akir. They'd been handpicked, all having different skills that should have complemented each other's. Bertram was common sense, having heightened senses that made him the team's rescue and recon specialist. Tasha was Tinkerbrain, having advanced intellect and mechokinesis, making her the team's technology specialist. Jeremy was Captain Amazing, horrible name, I know, and his magic, which let him do anything, made him the face of the company. All three were in the meeting room as well as the other members of the hero team when their benefactor, Mr. Bank, entered. Hello everyone, he stated. Good to see we're all here. He took his spot at the end of the table. No need to be formal. Let's get started. Jeremy, great work on that cancer problem Tasha couldn't figure out. The table, save Tasha, applauded politely. She glared daggers at Mr. Bank, then Jeremy. Jeremy waved away their praise. It was nothing. I channeled all of the rage of those who'd lost someone to cancer, and it just... He made a poofing motion with his hands. Went away. Jeremy smiled big, giving Tasha a knowing look. Nothing less than the best, as usual with you, Jeremy, Mr. Bank commended. As for the rest of you, good jobs as well. I have some assignments ready to go for today. He started rattling off missions, but Bertram ignored him, watching Tasha and Jeremy shoot daggers at each other with their eyes. If they were high schoolers, I'd tell them to kiss and get it over with, Bertram thought, exasperated. The pair had been going back and forth for months, getting on each other's nerves constantly. It had reached a boiling point for Bertram, so bad that he was about to report the pair. Common sense? Mr. Bank called. Yes, Bertram said, snapping to attention. Tinkerbrain and Captain Amazing? Tasha and Jeremy looked expectantly. I need you three to team up and search the jungles north of here for the base of Dogma. We've gotten word that the group is planning an attack soon, and I'd like us to get ahead of it if at all possible. Absolutely, Bertram said before the other two. Who are you assigning to take point? Mr. Bank looked to Bertram. You have a history with Dogma. I was thinking you could do it. Exactly what I wanted to hear, he thought, turning to check on Tasha and Jeremy. Mr. Bank, Tasha said, I don't know if my talents would be best utilized on this mission. Exactly what I did not want to hear, Bertram thought, groaning quietly. Mr. Bank gave her a hard stare. Deal with it. That was the end of the meeting. The issue is that I don't think Jeremy and I work well together. Tasha, I know, Bertram said, hiding none of the frustration in his voice. But we've been assigned to work with him, so you should be an adult and suck it up. They sat in the cockpit of the plane while Jeremy was outside flying on his own, because he can do that with magic. Why don't you side with me on this? She asked angrily. Because I think you're being childish. It should be beneath you. Tasha went quiet, looking away. Tasha, you are literally the smartest person I know. But whenever it comes to Jeremy and magic, you act like a little kid. But it's incredibly maddening, she countered. I understand that, but I've only heard about Jeremy and the ways he makes you angry for the last month. Tasha, you developed a cure for cancer, but all you talk about is how Jeremy magicked it away. You aren't less amazing for what you did, it just makes Jeremy a selfish jerk. Tasha looked back at Bertram. You see that, but no one else does. Is that Jeremy's fault? Bertram challenged. I think it is, Tasha responded. No, it's not, Bertram told her firmly. If you didn't act out so much, he wouldn't make such a big fuss about messing with you. You just don't understand, she muttered. That's fine, as long as you don't say anything more about Jeremy or magic, unless it's, Jeremy needs our help, or I think someone stole his magic. Their plane flew through some kind of barrier, and Jeremy began to fall. Jeremy needs our help, I think someone stole his magic, Tasha said. Bertram rolled his eyes, but sent the plane into a dive to catch up to Jeremy. They pulled the craft alongside, and Tasha went back to open a door and pull him inside. Thanks for the save, Jeremy told Bertram. It's nothing. Do you know what happened? Jeremy shook his head. I think there's an anti-magic barrier, but I'm not positive. They both glanced at Tasha. She sighed. I'll go check with my tech. They stepped out warily into the jungle clearing. I don't know if it's artificial, but there's definitely something in the air, Tasha explained. My radar is picking up some kind of particles with anti-magic properties. How are you able to know that? Jeremy asked. Tasha shrugged. Magic, and therefore you, gives off specific quantum signatures. Everything has its opposite, and it isn't hard to tell the opposite if you know what you're looking for. That's Tinkerbrain for you, Bertram complimented. Is it getting any stronger in any direction? She moved the handheld radar device in a circle before facing their left. That way. All right, Bertram began. Tinkerbrain, you and I will head deeper. Captain Amazing, you get out to an area where the field ends and hold the perimeter. They both nodded and the team split. Bertram and Tasha trekked through the forest, keeping the radar in front of them to direct them. Dogma was probably at the center of the anti-magic. Bertram opened all his senses to their fullest, utilizing his training to not go into sensory overload. Tasha watched their immediate surroundings, making sure no one got in close. A mile later, Bertram noticed a slight shift in colors to another 2 miles away. He focused his senses in that direction, seeing a well-camouflaged compound. There, he said, pointing it out to Tasha. She sent a Tinkerbot, confirming his discovery. I'm sending Jeremy and HQ the coordinates. What should we do? Due to the anti-magic, we should try some recon, but then retreat. We'll need a different hero to stop them if Captain Amazing can't fight here. Bertram started forward, but halted as something streaked over their head towards the base. What was that? He asked. Tasha looked furious. That was Jeremy. When the pair made it to the base, Jeremy had gone into the compound and dispatched the anti-magic device. He was working on finishing off the guards now that his power was unhindered. Tink, get in there and help out, Bertram commanded. I'll take perimeter and watch for survivors. Tasha sighed but double-tapped her temple. Bertram watched her augments come to life, making the ordinarily skilled Tasha into a super-skilled hero. She leapt into the fray, and Bertram let them at it, moving to circle the compound, looking, listening, feeling, smelling, and even tasting for hints that someone was trying to escape. This was his element, keeping calm and focused while others fought on the combat side of things. No one seemed to be exiting the perimeter, but an odd taste emanated from the center of the compound. When he was certain people weren't trying to escape, Bertram followed the taste into the building. He slipped through hallways, able to avoid anyone catching him with feel and sound. No one could intercept common sense. Near the center of the building, he found a large room where the taste was strongest. He slunk in, the senses almost overwhelming him. The room was like a mission control for a rocket launch, but in the front was a massive beam weapon, almost fully charged and pointed somewhere outward. Cap, Tink, watch out, they have some weapon, he began in their comms, but the device launched. Sense, what was that? Tasha replied. A large explosion went off, sending ripples through the air that made Bertram turn his active touch sensing off. Static rippled through their comms. Tink, Cap, are you okay? After a tense moment, Tasha responded. I'm good, but something's wrong with Cap. He can't move. Tink, I taste something weird in the air. Could it be anti-magic? Probably, she replied. It confuses me, though. I thought he destroyed the generator. For that matter, how was he able to reach this compound in the first place? Questions for later, Bertram said, already making his way back to them. For the time being, cover him until I get there, and we'll see about contacting HQ for backup. Bertram ran through the halls, prioritizing speed over stealth. A weapon that could immobilize Captain Amazing was a feat, but one that Bertram didn't like. He needed to get back to protect his friends. He burst into the open courtyard space, finding Tasha protecting the limp form of Jeremy. Bertram ran to meet them, double-tapping his own temple to activate the basic enhancements Tasha gave him. Her body was their power source, meaning they only worked around her. But when they worked, they worked. Bertram ran into the fray, fighting until he reached her side. How's it looking? He asked between breaths. If you can give me a moment to look him over, I might be able to tell you. Bertram nodded and kicked his combat into overdrive, letting Tasha crouch down next to Jeremy and check. He's surrounded by a field of anti-magic, she said. I think that beam hit him with some kind of anti-magic radiation poisoning. Can you do anything about it? Bertram asked. Tasha whipped out her Tonics to Go kit, a portable chem lab. Give me a few minutes. Bertram did his best. He held on as well as he could, but Dogma must have realized their plan, because they sent even more men with even bigger weapons. The tipping point was explosives. Tinkerbrain's augments could stand up to bullets, but the explosives could do damage. Tink, we're out of time, Bertram said, as the first rocket flew just an inch from the side of his head, zipping past and exploding in the jungle. Just give me... Tasha trailed off. In that moment, Jeremy, now off the ground, flew to the man with the rocket launcher and took him out. Cap, get the weapon in the center of the compound, Bertram yelled. Jeremy nodded and flew away. Seconds later, a loud, grating tear was heard, as Jeremy picked up the weapon and flew it back out to them. Hop on, he said, setting the beam cannon next to them. Bertram and Tasha grabbed onto the machine, and Jeremy flew it away, carrying them back to the plane. At HQ, the group received a hero's welcome. Mr. Bank happened to still be in the building and called the organization to the meeting hall for a debrief. Well, we discovered an anti-magic zone around the jungle, which made Jeremy's power stop, Bertram explained. We sat down and Tasha and I did recon. Once we found the building, Jeremy somehow flew in for offense. Bertram turned a confused look to Jeremy. Care to elaborate how you did that? Jeremy smiled, saying, All I needed to do was increase my power output to overcome the anti-magic that surrounded me. Once I did that, it was like my normal life again. Tasha groaned quietly next to Bertram. He ignored her, continuing the story. When he got to the part about Tasha making an antidote, Tasha cleared her throat, cutting him off. Bertram looked to her expectantly, but it was Jeremy. Then, as my companions here did all they could, in my mind, all I could think about was the lives at stake. That drive pushed me to power through the curse, putting me back into fighting condition. Bertram looked to Tasha. She nodded, holding up a small vial of blue liquid. It was an unfinished antidote. As the room burst into applause, Tasha leaned in to whisper, I hate magic. In this moment, Bertram could finally understand. Magic was stupid. And we're back. Yeah, so I really appreciated this one. Thinking of it specifically, recently, I say recently, it was probably a month ago at this point, I watched Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Let me tell you, I was so mad. Like, I wanted to enjoy it. I really did. But soft magic systems are the worst. And Shazam 2 showed off why they're the worst. Because they tried having stakes about, oh, our world's dying and everything's bad. But also, like in the last movie, the staff was snapped. But I guess the wizard could fix it. So he did. And then all of the evil people were like, we need to kill humans. But also, like, at the end of the movie, Wonder Woman just fixes their realm. So bad. And, like, soft magic systems don't have to be that horrible. But done poorly, which I think most of the time soft magic is done poorly, it's just infuriating, where it's just like, why did any of that happen? That made no sense. And so this was a story about, like, I don't hate all magic systems or anything, but like soft magic, like Jeremy just being able to do whatever. Yeah, no, it drives me insane. But anyway, that was this week's. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you guys again next week for another one-off. Goodbye.